Hello guys, and welcome back to another BFDIA What If. Today, we have a recommended BFDI What If from AMPSRCF. They recommended, what if the original characters from BFDI couldn't join BFDIA? Those being the original 20 plus David. Well, this is the current cast of characters and teams I've laid out. Now let me explain. So, one thing that you need to note is that Golf Ball was picked specially, but given that the rule is no OGs, I don't think they would be able to do that. Instead, I think they would select Gelatin. Anyways, how were the teams formed? Well, we have a bunch of what seems to be mean characters, like Donut, Fanny, Fries, and Marker. They would try to form a team, and then they'd all be about causing harm, and then, Black Hole isn't about causing death, so then he forms Death Pact, and then everybody just basically had to prove which side they were on. So yeah, that's basically how the teams work. Anyways, let's get into the first challenge. For the first challenge, this is a pretty difficult one, because a tug of war could go either way. But I think that Black Hole couldn't do too much in this challenge, given that he might accidentally kill someone while trying to get the rope onto their team's side. But we know that Dora can have impressive feats of strength, which means that I feel like a better name than that wins the challenge, and Death Pact will be the first up for elimination. The first thing for this elimination is who wins the prize. I think it will be a pretty close race between Puffball and Black Hole, but I feel like Black Hole's sympathy and his major role in forming the team would make him win the prize, which is seeds. Now, Black Hole would note that he couldn't really hold the prize, so he'd give it to someone else. And I feel like Book would take it, and he would examine it and find out that it was the oil seeds, because, he just figured it out because he's a textbook of whatever they need at that specific moment. Alright, I think we all know who's eliminated here. Yeah, Yellowface. Let's be honest, if he's the only joke character on this team and everybody else was putting in a full workout for the challenge, I feel like he would just be eliminated. I think we can all agree on that. Anyways, the second contest is to make Yoil Stew, and let's be honest, with the amount of electronical contestants on a better name than that, I don't feel like they can make Yoil Stew. They definitely wouldn't have a way to go to Yoil Land unless either Robot Flower or Dora could run that far, which I doubt they could within the time limit. So, Death Pact would win, and a better name than that is up for elimination. Now we're on the team that has not many popular characters. Well, I think that Marker would win the prize here, given that I feel like he'd have a cool attitude this season. And what is his prize? His prize is a personal speaker box, which means that the host is now Marker Speaker Box. Now, to mention, TV used to be the host in this season up until now. It's kind of like the donut thing in BFB, where he hosted but still competed. Anyways, let's see who gets eliminated. Yeah, I'm just gonna skip to the bottom two. I think it is between Donut and Fanny. Both have a really bad attitude, but one of them is more well-known. Yeah, I feel like Donut would still go here. He's kind of like the ringleader of the Mean People Club. So sad. At least you got one place above than in canon. Alright, I feel like now is where people will start to form an alliance. I feel like Book and Ruby would still team up for an alliance, and I feel like they'd get Gelatin to join them, because Gelatin's such a goofy guy. So, it'll originally be an alliance with the three of them. I'm not sure what the alliance would be called, but, there's an alliance there now, just so you know. But now it's time to kill all the bugs in your team's last box, and considering that a better name than that has Fiery Jr. and Bomby, I believe that they would just ignite Bomby and win the challenge, meaning the Death Pact is up for elimination. Alright, you know the drill. Since it's BFDIA, we need to figure out who would win the prize. Last time Black Hole won the prize, so I feel like Puffball will barely edge out Black Hole, and now Puffball will have the prize. The prize is to choose between immunity into the final 15 or a hand-powered recovery center. And the whole team would absolutely hate her if she didn't go for the hand-powered recovery center. And since she just won the prize, I feel like she'd just get the hand-powered recovery center. Anyways, on to the dislikes. Honestly, I can see the bottom two being Taco and Pie, but which one's worse? Well, I feel like Taco would do slightly more, so I believe that Pie would be eliminated. Again, this is harder elimination to tell because we don't necessarily know what they would be doing in BFDIA, and I know that they got hit with the oilizer in BFDIA 13 and that they've posted, but listen, that's a whole different scenario here. Now I have a feeling that Fiery Jr. would start to be fed up with his team to see what the other team is doing. And when Book, Ruby, and Gelatin are talking about spreading the alliance, they get Puffball in. and then Fiery Jr. asks if he can join, and then they kinda decline it because he's not on Death Pack. Anyways, on to the contest. The contest is to build a dream island, and considering the people here, Fiery Jr. Bomby, I feel like they would just ignite Bomby, and Death Pack would be up for elimination a second time in a row. Now here it's going to be another close race to see who can win the prize, but I feel like Puffball barely gets past Black Hole here. And the prize is you must choose a contestant to lose their limbs. And I feel like Puffball would probably go for, I don't know, TV, I guess. Trying to cause the least bad things from happening, so now TV loses their limbs. Anyways, the bottom two would probably be Cake and Taco, but considering Taco does more, I feel like Cake would be eliminated. Taco really seems to be getting past the bottom two here. I just think they'd be more useful than a lot of other small background characters. Now, normally this is one free smart, but considering that Death Pack keeps losing, I feel like the Alliance would try to form their own team. Fiery Jr. insists on joining, so I guess Fiery Jr. would join as well. Now, their team name would have been the Alliance, but since technically not all of them are in the Alliance, they just call it Iance, I guess. But as you can see, a better name than that has too many people on their team, which means that more people have to swap over. I feel like 8-Ball and TV would probably switch over to Death Pack. You know, I could cover all of BFDIA 5A, 5B, 5C, 5D, and 5E, but since Puffball is on Iance, I don't know. On one half of me, I feel like Iance would be safe because they just formed, but on the other half, it's Puffball, and BFDIA 5E, she would almost always make her team lose, which in this time is Iance, so I feel like Iance would lose, unfortunately. Yeah, if you had half a brain, you know that Puffball is automatically eliminated here, but more interestingly, who wins the prize? I feel like Ruby would win the prize, which is, again, a meteor shield. Anyways, yeah, Puffball's eliminated. Let's get on to PostHiatus. Alright, I'm starting to feel that Marco would be more of a silly guy now. As such a silly guy, he would try to join Ian. And, well, since he can switch teams whenever he wants before a contest, he can. So, Iance is really just 3 Alliance members now. Okay, let's be honest, the writers wouldn't put Iance up for elimination right now, so we know that Iance would be safe and they'd probably find some place to sleep because that's what this challenge is. The last team with all their members to fall asleep is up for elimination, and since Iance is safe, it is between a better name than that and Death Pack. Honestly, I feel like a better name than that would have a harder time sleeping. Bomby because of his PTSD of Fiery Jr., and I feel like some other characters like Dora could be like hungry and then thus not go to sleep, so I feel like a better name than that would lose. Alright, let's be honest, this is when Fries I feel like would start gaining more popularity, so Fries would instantly win the prize, and he gets to change color. And since Bomby already turned purple in the original timeline, I feel like Fries would turn purple here. Alright, let's be honest, a lot of these characters are mean, but Dora just survived pre-hiatus, and I don't see Dora surviving much longer, so yeah, Dora is eliminated. But hey guys, Dora got pretty far in this. You have to admit that's kinda cool. The contest is to make a tiny loser chamber, I guess, or elimination place. Now, all teams would be here for this, but it's really about who's most with craft. I feel like a better name than that could snag second place because, well, they were just up for elimination, and I feel like with the numbers advantage, they could scrap together something passable. So now it's down to Iance and Death Pack. I feel like Death Pact would originally have something really good here, but considering that Black Hole is a black hole, I feel like he might accidentally scoop it up. And Iance would have Book as a carpenter's textbook or whatever you want Book to be in this episode, so Iance would snag the win, and Death Pact would be up for elimination. So, who would win the prize? Well, I think it's obvious that Black Hole would win the prize, but this is the first time where the prize will deviate from the normal timeline. Instead of getting to time travel to 10 seconds ago and be reassembled, he would get the announcer's spaceship, which should come in handy later. Anyways, the bottom two is Taco and Balloony. Taco, yeah, you'll survive the next bottom two. Balloony isn't as popular, and I feel like he would be kind of annoying, so yeah, bye Balloony. Taco really manages to escape the bottom two these days. And now we're on to the challenge where they have to paint the ugly, stupid Eiffel Tower. Anyways, Iance has Gelatin's Shade House, so they'd be safe, and Death Pact just got the prize of a spaceship, which means a better name than that is up for elimination. Alright, this time I feel like Bommy would win the prize, and his prize would be to switch the vocal cords of 2 team members. And I feel like it would be Robot Flower and Fries that Bommy switches, cause isn't that just hilarious? Anyways, yeah, I don't see Remote living past this elimination. Bye-bye, Remote. Alright, this contest is the one with the Crushers, so this is the charade episode. To be honest, I think that a better name than that would be guaranteed safe. After all, they only have 4 team members left, and I feel like Death Pact would be getting down to only a few members left, but Iance is really doomed here. Ruby and Gelatin suck at charades, and I feel like the others would have to put up with that, so yeah, I feel like Iance would be up for elimination in this episode. You get the drill. Who wins the prize? I think it would be Marker that wins the prize, as Gelatin and Ruby would be pretty unlike elimination. So it would basically be a race between Book and Marker, but I feel like Marker would handle this situation better than Book would, so Marker would win a prize. His prize would be a swap token. That could come in handy later. Anyways, let's see who's eliminated. Yeah, it's Gelatin. We don't even need to pretend, we just all know that Gelatin's leaving here. Anyways, now the contest is to make food. Well, let's look at the teams. Iance is definitely safe. A better name than that would have a decent chance, and Death Pact would instantly be up for elimination. There's only really one person that could even try the contest, which is Taco, but I don't feel like Taco would be able to do too much. So, let's see who on Death Pact will be eliminated. This time, I feel like it would be Taco that wins the prize, given that Taco was the only one that could actually compete in this challenge. Taco must choose between immunity into the final 10 or removal of a contestant's face. I think that Taco would choose immunity. She has no reason to remove a contestant's face, so yeah, Taco is now immune until the final 10. But who will be getting eliminated? I feel like it would be 8-Ball here. The rest of them are too popular. Bye, 8-Ball. But this will be a bad day for Marker Speaker Boxes. When 8-Ball is getting eliminated, 8-Ball accidentally crushes Marker Speaker Box. Who's the host gonna be now? Well, Flower, actually. And since Flower is still the host, the challenge would remain relatively the same. Now, I feel like Death Pact would probably be able to cheese this challenge because Black Hole could just rip off the pedals, so Death Pact would definitely be safe. So it's between Iance and a better name than that. Considering that Iance lost in our original timeline, I believe they would lose here as well. So, Iance, who among you are leaving? Alright, given each character's popularity, I believe Ruby would win the prize, just like in canon. The prize is shrink a contestant of your choice. And, well, given that not many of them would like it, we need to see which contestant would have the least vocal cues to really insist that they love Ian. I believe that TV would be the one shrunk. Anyways, who is going to be eliminated? I feel like it would be Fiery Jr. I feel like last episode he would be really aggressive, which I mean, viewers don't like mean, aggressive characters. So Fiery Jr. is eliminated. Okay, so Marker needs to decide who should join Iance, and you know, Nickel in the original timeline was like, ooh, pick me, so I feel like Marker would choose Nickel. Welcome to the Alliance, Nickel. And secondly, Flower would be killed. I'm not sure how, but who knows, maybe Fiery Jr. sets Flower on fire. Anyways, the Bugs are now hosting. Alright, and now it's the bug throwing competition. So, I feel like Death Pact would be absolutely opposed to this idea. And considering that all of them would be decently popular, I feel like they could get away with this. I mean, they're following the path, which is probably the most important thing for them. So really, it's between Iance and a better name than that to win immunity, because the other two teams will be up for elimination. And I feel like a better name than that would have a harder time to win immunity, so Iance is safe and the rest are up for elimination. Alright, who will win the prize? I feel like TV would win the prize and TV returns to TV's original state. Isn't that cool? Anyways, all these characters are popular and Taco has immunity, so I feel like Robot Flower would be the one to leave here. Yeah, you could argue against Fanny, but I feel like Fanny would be more popular here. So, Flower Robot is eliminated. I won't even say your name right anymore, Robot Flower. To be honest, I don't even think anything really that important would happen in BFDIA 13. I guess all the outdated assets will be updated, so let's update all the character assets. Anyways, as we all should know, the bugs would get killed somehow. I feel like it would be Black Hole by accident. Anyways, we all know that the host is the old eliminated contestants in the locker of losers. But this challenge would be majorly changed now. Anyways, let's get into groups of 2. So the groups are this: Bulk and Ruby, Marker and Nickel, Fanny and Taco, Fries and Bommy, and TV and Black Hole. Anyways, the first island in this timeline would be Yellowface's Island, and I feel like this island would be about marketing product. I see Black Hole and TV being able to pass fairly easy, because TV is a TV. I feel like Fries and Bommy would be able to advertise something, like a digging product or something. I feel like Marker and Nickel could advertise dirt or something. So then it's down to Book and Ruby and Fanny and Taco. Honestly, I feel like Book and Ruby could have this one, meaning that everybody but Fanny and Taco are on Island 2 now. Island 2 is the first and probably only island that is actually from the canon. Well, other than Puffballs, but we'll get to that later. Donuts Island will stay the same, so I feel like Black Hole and TV might have a little bit of trouble, but eventually get somewhere, as the writers wouldn't want them to be up for elimination this fast. I feel like Fries and Bommy wouldn't have that difficult of a time, and now Fanny and Taco are back up. So, which pair will get up? I feel like maybe Marker and Nickel can get up. So, once again, the last 2 teams on Island 2 is Book and Ruby, and Fanny and Taco. I feel like Fanny and Taco could pass over Book and Ruby, though, because Book and Ruby had a difficult time in our own timeline. I don't know exactly what would happen for Pie's Island, but let's just assume it's about preventing death for simplicity's sake. Well, obviously TV and Black Hole could pass. I also think that Fanny and Taco could pass. And Book and Ruby just made it. I feel like Marker and Nickel could also pass, and then I think Book and Ruby would pass over Fries and Bommy, leaving Fries and Bommy the only ones in Island 3 still. Cake's Island would probably be about baking, so the teams would catch up, and all the teams except TV and Black Hole would make it past, because, well, TV and Black Hole would have quite the hard time making a baked good, so they're probably going to be behind by a bit. Alright, now we're on to Puffballs Island, and the teams are all caught up and everything. I'll just say the team's safe, because this is getting dragged on. TV and Black Hole, because TV can play music, Bommy and Fries because of what they did in canon, which leaves us with 3 teams. I feel like Book and Ruby would do something more unique in this timeline, making them safe. And which team will be up for elimination? I feel like it would be Fanny and Taco, as Marker and Nickel would most likely make up a silly thing to say. Well, this elimination will be simple. Fanny wins the prize, and Taco will be eliminated. But what is Fanny's prize gonna be? Given that in our timeline, Bulk won the prize, I feel like Fanny would win a prize. Kinda similar, but basically his fan power increases for the episode. Alright, this is how I think the trios would be laid out. And here is the actual teams. Different, right? Anyways, only one of these trios can be safe and win immunity. Which one will it be? Well, all of them would have a pretty hard time, so I'm not quite sure. But I'm gonna have to give the advantage to Black Hole's team. I mean, he'd most likely be able to control gravity of some sort. Yeah, he'd probably do some weird Black Hole gimmick to get them safe, so the rest will be up for elimination. Honestly, given how popular Fries would be at this point, I feel like Fries would win the prize. And honestly, the bottom 2 would be between TV and Nickel. Well, I feel like TV would get out, because Nickel would be safe in our timeline. Anyways, Fries' prize is an obelisk. Isn't that cool? Listen, I know that the merge didn't originally happen at this point in time, but this is practically the merge in our timeline, because really only one person has been getting immunity. And given that Nickel won immunity in our timeline, I don't see why he wouldn't win immunity here, and the rest are up for elimination. If I'm gonna be honest, I feel like the bottom 2 would be between Bommy and Ruby, but at the end of the day, I feel like Ruby has outstayed her welcome, so bye Ruby. Oh yeah, one thing I forgot to mention is that Fry still wins the prize, and he gets immunity into the final 6. Well, that'll only be in a few episodes anyways, so who will be safe this episode? Well, I mean, it pretty much has to be Black Hole, because he's practically already his truest self, so we just need to scan and win. So who will be eliminated? Who will win the prize? Alright, this elimination will be very controversial, seeing the episode's prize wheel. So, I feel like Marker would barely win the prize, but his prize is to eliminate a contestant of his choice, but he would wait until the elimination votes are in. And in a very close vote, I feel like Bommy would be eliminated, and Marker, seeing that Nickel is another weakling, would probably eliminate him as well, because, you know, Nickel's annoying as well. So, double elimination this time. Alright, now we're down to the bottom 5, or the final 5 at least. Now this is where it's all speculation. Considering that this is basically its own timeline, I don't think it matters. So, who would win immunity this time? I feel like Book would win immunity, just barely, because Book has had a hard losing streak. I don't think the prizes would matter that much, as I can't really predict what the prizes will be. Anyways, let's be honest, Fries would be eliminated here. After his immunity thing that he got from his prize, he'd basically be set up for failure here. Anyways, let's move on. Anyways, on to the final contest. Who is gonna win immunity? Just like every other BFDI season, I feel like the last challenge will be every challenge before. And I think that Marker would have a decent chance at winning immunity here. Book just received it, and I feel like one of the Ions members deserves to have immunity. So, who will be the last to leave before the finale? If we're gonna be honest, it's probably a close race between Fanny and Book, but by the skin of Book's teeth, I feel like Fanny would be eliminated, making it 2 Ioncers versus the last remaining person on Death Pack. Alright, who would the winner be of BFDIA if the original people couldn't join? I feel like the winner would be Black Hole. This would be down to the wire, but I feel like since Book and Marker have to share votes, or split votes, I feel like Black Hole would get the edge and win. Did you expect Black Hole to win BFDIA? Anyways, let me know what you thought about this BFDI What If, and you can suggest what you want for the next What If in the comments. Anyways, make sure to like and subscribe. Once we get to 1,000 subscribers, I'll reveal a little secret for you guys. Anyways, goodbye.